Yeah. And also in the topic of us, like in light music and semi-classical, you did participate in Paruta Tiaga, a competition, and you also like I might be wrong when I say this, but like for Swaravedica, like an organization that you yeah, I don't know if you created or if you were like,
Mhm.
co-creator, I guess. You did many like, outreach programs. You did also like, especially just to bring out music, you did a lot of work for that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was 15, I was in Parthatega, and that was kind of my main, like the biggest door for me, I guess. And it kind of opened up a lot of opportunities for me. And that experience in itself was amazing. I got to travel around the country for about 2.5 months. I was under the tutelage of like many great mentors at that time, some who were like provided by the show, but also like personally. So I was singing, like it was full-time singing for me, and traveling with my family and also all the participants and their families. Like it was one of the greatest experiences. And more than a competition, honestly, it always felt like a learning experience. I got to sing about 17 songs in the show. So it really like, and it was all types of music. And before that, like I did a light music, but it was never in that intensity where I would be learning 3 to 6 songs a week and having orchestra rehearsals and stage rehearsals, and then just doing all the episodes in the weekend. So it was very fast and very exciting, but at the same time also stressful. But it also brought me closer to a lot of people who were like me on the show. And because of that, we got really tight and really close after months of singing together. And Sarvedika was kind of the product of that. So it was a way for us to initially have our, even our families are extremely close. So it was a way for us to stay connected and our families to stay connected and do something that we were all passionate about. And we decided, music was definitely a part of it. We all love singing. Let's do something with this. But we decided, what can we do? What impact can we have? And given that all of us had a platform to express that music, I think we wanted to take advantage of it and give back to whatever we wanted to, which ended up being like underserved populations in India, especially targeting education and giving like children like the proper access to have a better education. So after that, I think it's been about 3-4 years since we started that organization, and I think we've like directly or indirectly impacted over like 20,000 children or people in many ways. And even though we had a goal of essentially just having our main focus be on underserved children, we also have helped out with like medical supplies and like giving people access to water in like areas where it's like the simple things: food, water, medical aid, even like giving girls bikes when they were walking home like 4 or 5 kilometers from their school to their house. So anything we could do to make sure someone's life was getting better, especially for children, that became one of our biggest goals. So I think that's like inspiring to a lot of people because we are taking music as our main route to get there. All the money we raise is through music, through workshops. We used to go during, especially when I was in high school, we used to go around the country and put on like shows with live orchestras, and all the money from the ticket sales or donations would directly go into our organization. So it was a great way for me to stay connected and to keep singing and know that my singing was doing good for someone out there. And I think it's something that we all still cherish today, and we're still doing a lot of projects today. So yeah, it's come a long way, and it's something we're all really proud of. But it's only due to all the doors that we got open for us through that initial show that happened for all of us.
Beautiful, beautiful. And yeah, we've seen Swaravedika stands in the temple everywhere. And it's such a beautiful organization. It's doing so many good things for so many good people.
Yeah, and
Okay,
it's like really
yeah,
widespread too. So
yeah,
we have
it's a
like
very wide,
locations
yeah,
all over the country, which is great. It's not just in Minneapolis, it's
right.
everywhere.
So moving into going into a more personal perspective, you were one of you took a very big part in leading the all-in-one programs for the past 6 to 7 years. Can you tell us about can you tell us about that event and how it affected your musical journey?
Yeah, so actually I don't even remember how I got into it. I think I was just at the temple one day and someone was like, "Yeah, they're doing a bhajan program and auditions are happening right now. Like, do you want to go try?" And I was like, "Okay, sure. Like, why not?" And I did, and that's when I met Ramki uncle, and he was like very excited to hear me sing, and that's when he was like, "I see a lot of potential in you. Like, please, like, do this." And I didn't think much of it then. I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I was like in middle school. I had a lot of time on my hands, so I did, and it's always been one of the most exciting events for me to participate in. Yeah, I don't even know how many years I actually sang. I think it was like 6 or 7, but I think it taught me a lot about leadership and how music can be so powerful, but also, the whole goal of All in One is to like bring everyone together, all is one. And I think that's what honestly it did every single year. Um, I served as lead for a couple of years, and I think being able to teach kids and like work with kids and like work with like even adults, instrumentalists, and have everyone come together and just have this massive like glorious event of music every year was just awesome. And I think for me personally, I think I also learned a lot from Ramki uncle. It wasn't like directly Carnatic music, but he definitely is a guru to me because he has taught me so much. I didn't really sing bhajans growing up, so he exposed me to that entire like devotional element too. And I still remember a lot of his songs and how he taught us and like the investment he had. And I think that passion is something I like try to dedicate into all the music I sing today, is just knowing that it has such a bigger purpose than just, presenting on stage for 5 or 6 minutes. But and then the last part is that again the community. I was singing with people, like I was singing with both of you, and I was also singing with like people that I've known for many years, and it was just a nice event where I could expect all of us to be singing again. And as you get older, that becomes like more rare, that you kind of lose connections and you kind of lose your childhood as you grow up. But it was something that I knew that I would expect to see all my friends at, and then we would be singing together. And I think the euphoria of that feeling is what really makes it so much better. But yeah, I definitely do miss it. This year was supposed to be our 10th year, so it just puts everything into perspective of how far we've come, but also that there's always a bigger good to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and all in one is something I I grew up in all in one, like all of like it's one of the things that made me want to pursue music. And like you said, it's just the most beautiful community event that we ever had. It's just such a good learning and growing experience.
Yeah, I agree.
so now talking about like MNFitoor, obviously like it's an acapella group, bringing in different bringing in Western and Carnatic styles. So bringing in like Western styles, like do you guys bring in pop? Do you guys bring in jazz? Like that those kind of like elements, are they all in that acapella? And if so, like how do you incorporate them in voices?
Yeah, so I would say our biggest focus so far has been trying to incorporate more Indian styles. We've only been around for like a year, so it's been kind of tough to really incorporate more of those styles, just because as captain, as the arranger right now, and my other captains arrangers, we're not as familiar with those specific styles. But we still try to incorporate pop. Like we've done a couple of Western pieces, and we've done a different variety of Western pieces. And I think the biggest thing we do is we use the resources. You know, we listen to the song. We don't just listen to the song for the sake of the lyrics. We actually focus on the track. We see like elements of the song that we know we need to like like also replicate into the music, but also see how can we infuse the Indian style into this and vice versa too. So it's definitely harder. I think for me at least, like it's super easy for me to arrange a piece in a Hindi or Telugu piece just because that's where I'm most comfortable with. But arranging an English piece might be more complicated. And I think that's somewhere that eventually down the line, we hope to collaborate more with the other a cappella teams on campus who primarily do only English songs, so that we're like exchanging like knowledge and like arranging techniques, because everyone does it differently. So to answer your question, it is really hard to do that. And even with our singers, like we try to create more of a unified sound and try to like introduce like elements specifically into each piece. So yeah, it's very hard, and it's a learning process altogether. But I think in every song we've done so far, we've given it proper justice in terms of doing it to the style that it is. And even like small things like that you can do through like your facials and like your gestures and your body language. Like you can incorporate a lot of the music styles through that as well.
Yeah. And you were talking about how in the Carnatic piece that you had, you also incorporated beatboxing and some kunako. So is that something you do? Is that something you incorporate for every piece, or was that just for that piece?
Like a creative element, or
is that creative element just for taste in that piece, or do you guys actually have beatboxers for your acapella?
Yeah, so our beatboxer does his thing the entire time. Beatboxing really adds a texture to all the pieces, and that was something I actually had no familiarity with going into like arranging. Is we would honestly just tell our beatboxer, this is our vision. Like, this is when we really want it to be soft. And this is when we really want it to be like louder and more like space filling. And he would be the one to actually arrange his own beatboxing to the piece. So during practices, he would be listening to the group. And then he would come to us and we'd try some different things out. And then that's how beatboxing came to be. Creative elements wise, I would say the most we ever did was for that Carnatic piece. And just because we were just convinced that, you know, Carnatic music is not just like singing a song, it's about all these elements within it. And we wanted to try something. And I don't think it's ever been done much in the circuit. I've never seen another a cappella team incorporate that many styles into a Carnatic piece. So it was kind of our endeavor in like putting something really new out there. So yeah, how much we did in that Carnatic piece was over the top, and I don't think reproducing that into another song will be easy. But in like standard mashups or standard arrangements we do now, we do try to give it our own hint of personality. Essentially, I think our team does much more complex arrangements in that we really try to integrate the two songs more rather than just doing half a song first and half a song second. We try to go in and out of the songs and also like try to do more voiceovers and blends and all of that. But that's like the nature of it, though. You can get as creative as you want, and it's all up to the team and all up to the arrangers. But again, it's definitely a learning process. It took me so long to arrange my first piece, but now like I'm getting used to it, so it becomes a little bit easier.
Yeah, so tell us about like just I know it'll be if we go into detail then it'll start to get a little boring, but like tell us a little bit about like how you arrange your pieces, like what kind of elements do you toss in, like what spurs in your mind, like what goes on in there like when you try to arrange a piece.
Yeah, I'll keep this brief because it can really get very intense and long. But I think the idea is the biggest thing for me. It's like, okay, what do I want to do? So I'll just choose one song that I know that I want to do. It could be any song, it could be a Hindi song or an English song. And then the first thing I do is I listen to the tempo of the song. And I kind of categorize it in my brain as like, okay, this is a pop song, this is a fast beat song, this is a melody, a slower, or it's like a ballad. And then I look for other songs that fit that tempo and that fit that vibe or that fit that tone essentially.
Yeah.
And that takes a while because it's not just something you can search up, like songs that are in 80 BPM that are also very sad. It's not something direct. And that usually what I just do, and this is something that has personally worked for me, I just sing a song over and over again. And in my mind, I try incorporating with other songs. So naturally, like throughout the day, I'll just be like humming to myself. And then maybe like at the end of a line, another song will just pick up for me. And then I start singing that song and I say like, oh, that works. So then I'll go sit down and like look at the lyrics and I'll listen to the song and I'll listen to the end notes of each part of the song and see where the flow from one song to the other makes sense. And I have a Google Doc and I'll just like copy paste paragraphs after each other, sing it out a couple times. It takes a couple hours, but at the end I have a finished product of like the mashup. And then after that, that's like the initial skeleton. We use a program called MuseScore, which is an online music making program. So I'll first input in all the solo lines and then slowly I will, and this is also not just me, this is like my team of arrangers. We all kind of give it back and forth to each other, but we input the soprano line and then we'll work at it. We'll put in like the main pieces of the song. There's some iconic songs that have different music styles that you cannot just avoid. Like you have to put it in for the feel. So we'll do all those first, and then we'll fill in the rest with what we think is right, rhythm patterns, or like anything else that we feel we'll just fill it in. That's kind of what we do. So it's definitely a process. I think arranging a song from initial idea to the end product may take up to like 1 to 2 months at some times, especially with our busy schedule. So it is definitely a lot and long process, but it gets easier as you do it more.
Yeah. So, when creating a song or creating a piece, you obviously have to have some inspiration, and you're gonna want to listen to multiple renditions of whatever song. What could you tell us what is Fitoor's, like which artist or which style of music is Fitoor's inspiration for writing most of their songs?
It's hard to say what our entire team's motivation is. Most of our team doesn't arrange. We only, for our last comp season, it was primarily me and 2 other people. So I would say our inspiration as arrangers comes from our own background. So for me, that's why we had a Carnatic piece, because all 3 of the arrangers were Carnatic musicians, which is why it was so easy. I don't think anyone who didn't have a Carnatic background would be able to arrange a piece like that. But I definitely think for our team, a lot of it is South Asian music, especially Hindi music. That probably is our biggest inspiration because that is something you don't get to do on the daily basis. Western music is something we listen to every day. We listen to it in all aspects of our life, but a lot of people came into Fitoor with wanting to sing more South Asian music and wanting to be around South Asian music more. So I would say that is definitely our biggest inspiration, but I really think it depends on each person. As per artists, I think our team is extremely diverse in what they like. We have people who are really into rap and like really into R&B, or like really into Bollywood, or are into completely classical music. So it's very wide in like what people like, but I think that's what makes music making more fun, because we get a chance to experiment in all of these categories.
Yeah. And then you as a song arranger, who do you take as your inspiration for writing songs?
Just like artists in general?
Yeah, artists in general, or even I'd say artists in general. Yeah.
Yeah, I think primarily, and this might sound basic, but like Shreya Ghoshal, Arjit Singh, SPB are like my top three favorite singers. I haven't tackled into like, we did do a Tamil piece last year. It was a Sid Sriram piece and A.R. Rahman music. And A.R. Rahman doing any of his songs a cappella is just completely mesmerizing because he's just like insanely genius. But I also really want to delve into more of the classics and focus on Ilayaraja's music. That's like one of my upcoming goals, is to really try to take that olden type of music with another genius, and I think that's where I want to incorporate more of like SPB and Chitra style music into Ilayaraja's music and see what kind of acapella that would create, because it'll be so cool in my opinion to see modern music collide with more of these evergreen classics. So those are I have a lot of inspirations, honestly. I think in general, if a song just hits me in a different way, it automatically becomes an inspiration. But those are some of my artists that are my go-to and that I know that I can count on anytime.
Yeah, and especially there's so much to experiment with. It's not just like one set genre of music. You have so much to like experiment with, and you have so many different styles of like how people render that particular song. So that also plays a different factor, and you just have a bunch of like things to play around with. So it's a fun but a little stressful type of activity.
Yeah, it's like really hard to have a lot of options too. That I feel like sometimes having a lot of options versus not having a lot is like the same issue. Like trying to bring down like what do I want can be really hard at times. So it's just a matter of like just setting your mind to one thing and just keeping consistent with it and not trying to like maneuver around. But yeah, creativity is definitely something that any a cappella team needs to have, because you're completely taking something and turning it into something else.
Yeah. So as we wind down, slow, we have like just a couple of questions left to ask. So what made you think that yes, this is why I want to pursue this is why I want to pursue light music. I'm sorry. So what gave you that drive? What gave you that motivation to say yes, that's where I want to go?
For like, this is my personal.
Yeah, personally.
Yeah. It's very vivid to me. It was when I was like 9 or 10. There was a competition that came to Minnesota, and it was called Spandana, and that was the first time that I wasn't even learning light music at this point. And someone else told my parents, like, there's a competition in town. There's a classical section, but there's also a non-classical section. Um, and I think, I didn't even know what song to sing. Like, I used to listen to music, but I had no experience in like light music enough to like know when to start. And I remember my mom asked my aunt, like, just choose a song for her, and my aunt gave me a song. I still know what the song is, and I learned it. And then I like won that round in the non-classical, and I actually got to go to California for the finals. um and that was like such a fun thing for a 10-year-old to go to California. I went with Vinodana and a couple other, I think like one or two other singers from here. I think I also went with Shreya Shankar. And that's when I saw all this talent, because growing up, by that point in Minneapolis, I wasn't really introduced to the light music community. I didn't even know that there were that many singers. So going to California and suddenly seeing like, I think about 200 participants singing light music songs. And in that too, I grew up in a Telugu family, and much of the Carnatic community was Tamil. So it was still home to me, but I always felt that disconnect because I never knew Tamil myself. But going to this competition and seeing all these Telugu singers and like judges actually talking to me in Telugu, I think that like brought a sense of like, oh my goodness, there's this whole other community of music lovers. And so luckily I found a guru from India, and then I had a chance to do a workshop under him when he came to Minneapolis one year. And I think that's just when I realized that this is something that really suits my voice and also really suits like my background, and also gives me a chance to really, work on my own Telugu diction as well, something that I wasn't really getting in like Carnatic music. So I just started doing both. And I think eventually, like, both just opened a lot of doors. But light music has always been like my primary focus.
So now I think you gave a lot about your personal aspects. So now Fitur, like now in the perspective of Fitur, what are your thoughts?
About starting it. And
Yeah, starting it. Yeah, basically like
yeah,
like to
Yeah,
make.
like why did you want to start Fithor? Like the reason
yeah.
that you want to start Fithor.
So it's actually a really funny story. One, I remember during my freshman year, my first year in college, I really miss singing. When you're singing for that many years and then you just suddenly stop, like it's very heartbreaking. But Barth and I were used to sing from time to time, and we sang at the Indian Student Association fall show together, and we got a really good response from it. We made like a mashup, and we just sang it with a karaoke track, like nothing too major. But after we did that, we started just wanting to sing more. And it was nice to have someone that I've known for a while. And one day, one of our friends in another a cappella team from a different school, and we were watching a live stream. And we just asked each other, like, hey, like, is this something that you want to do here? And I think slowly, it took a lot of convincing each other to actually start a team because it's a lot of work. But we started adding people one by one, and then eventually we had a team. So honestly, I think it was just giving the Minneapolis community, for college kids especially, a place to sing, because there's really not much that a South Asian artist who wants to pursue South Asian music can do in college on campus. And we saw that all these other big universities had teams, so we just wanted to make sure that our little home in this big city also had one that people down the line can have access to.
Wow, amazing.
Right.
Before I ask the concluding question, I'd like to thank Priya on behalf of Fithor for coming on the show. Um, and taking the time out of your very busy senior college schedule to answer our questions, have fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for doing this. I think the impact that this has, what you guys are doing, is awesome. Like growing up, if I had access to this, I think it would have really, really been great for me. So just know that you guys are doing a great job, and it's been an honor to be a guest on your show today.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Yeah. And you tied that younger part perfectly, actually, because the concluding question is, what advice would you give to younger the younger generation of Indian South Asian music and people who are even people who are coming to audition for Fithor? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think going back, the biggest thing that helped me is to not have competition with anyone except yourself. You're only going to grow as a singer if you tell yourself to grow on what you need to work on and not by comparing yourself to other people. And that's something, I've judged the competitions here and there, and it's really upsetting to see kids get discouraged by like not winning a prize or being compared to other people. So I think, especially going forward, sing if it really means a lot to you. Only pursue it if it's something that means a lot to you and you have the passion for it. And know that there's ample resources available, great mentors, youth mentors in our community itself that can really pave the way for younger artists. But I think as time has passed, there have been so many resources in the Minneapolis community and so many outlets, but to only really do it if it's something that inspires you and can help you grow as a better person.
Wow.
Well, you guys heard it here. Compete for the sake of performing in front of greater artists. Getting help, getting inspiration. Continue to pursue music. Continue to practice music, and go check out Fithor in the link. It'll be in the description. Their social media links will be in the description. If you're going into UFM, then I'll definitely audition for Fithor. And because as I've seen and I've experienced it, it's a very fun thing to watch, and it's a very from what I've heard, it's a very awesome group. Thank you
Yeah,
so
for
much,
sure.
Priya. Thank you so much for Priya for coming on the show. Thank you everybody for listening. Make sure to go check out the links in the description, our social media links and Fithor's social media links. please make sure to go subscribe and like to the video, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
This is the Bros signing off.